And so by sharing some of the cherries, we end up with these plants we didn't put there. And I think that so much to me is also we, in our modern world, focus so much on annual crops. Annual crops are amazing, but annual crops require so much disturbance and input and mechanization and such. And in nature, those usually represent this disturbance type of species that shows up on 10% max of the landscape. Whereas our farm systems, it's 90% of what's there. And so a lot of the curiosity and question from a growing standpoint, I think we're trying to answer, and permaculture and a lot of people, is how do you actually cultivate a forest that feeds you? And I love that like we planted a cherry tree right when I got to the homestead and it's grown and become more mature. But right when we planted it, a bunch of volunteers are, how are we going to prevent the birds from eating the cherries? And so it's this interesting idea that we think that if we plant something, we're entitled to all of it. And I'm kind of like, the birds will get some of the cherries. Fine. Those birds are landing in that tree and they're pooping. And now we have currant plants growing because they brought that seed in their poop. And the currants are now feeding us too. And so by sharing some of the cherries, we end up with these plants we didn't put there. And that to me is kind of a very micro example of like this idea of how do we set in motion something that gets that life of its own and feeds us, but not just us. Like we might plant a seed, but it's all these microorganisms and decades of soil fertility building that really has grown it. So it kind of moving away from ownership towards participation.